The stars had always been quiet. For 300 years, humanity had traveled among them, built colonies on distant worlds, and created a fleet of warships to protect their people. But in all that time, they had never found proof that they were not alone. That changed on a cold morning in the year 2347, near the edge of the Helix Nebula. Admiral Park once stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Soul's Promise. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. He had commanded ships for 30 years, and he had seen many strange things in the darkness of space, but nothing had prepared him for what his sensors were showing him now. "Sir, I am picking up something unusual," said Lieutenant from his station. The young communications officer looked at his screens with wide eyes. "It is a signal, but it is not coming from any human source." Admiral Park walked over to the lieutenant's station and looked at the data. The signal was strong and clear. It repeated in patterns that seemed organized like a language. His heart beat faster, but his face remained calm. "Can you find where it is coming from?" he asked. "Yes, sir. It is about 2 hours away at standard speed, coming from behind that large asteroid field." Admiral Park looked at the main screen. The Helix Nebula glowed purple and blue in the distance. Somewhere in that beautiful chaos, something was calling out, something that was not human. He turned to his tactical officer, Captain Hana. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and quick hands. She had served with the Admiral for 5 years, and he trusted her completely. "Captain, what is your assessment?" he asked. "The signal does not match any known human codes," she said. "It is definitely artificial. Someone or something made it on purpose. Whether they are friendly or not, we cannot know until we get closer." Admiral Park nodded slowly. He had 12 warships under his command. They were on a routine patrol mission, looking for pirates and checking on distant colonies. First contact with an alien species was not in his orders, but he knew that this moment might never come again. "Set course for the signal," he ordered. "All ships maintain defensive formation. We go slowly and carefully." The fleet of 12 warships turned and began moving toward the source of the signal. The crews worked in nervous silence. Everyone knew that history was about to be made. 2 hours later, they found it. The alien ship was massive. It was longer than any human vessel Admiral Park had ever seen. Its hull was smooth and silver, with strange symbols carved into the metal. Lights glowed along its sides in colors that humans had no names for. It floated in space like a sleeping giant. "It is beautiful," whispered Lieutenant. "It is also damaged," said Captain Hana. She pointed at the screen. "Look at the rear section. There are burn marks and holes. Someone attacked this ship." Admiral Park studied the alien vessel carefully. She was right. The ship had been in a fight and it had lost. Now it drifted helplessly, sending out its signal like a cry for help. "Open a channel," he ordered. "Let us try to talk to them." Lieutenant worked quickly at his station. He sent out greetings in every human language and in mathematical patterns that any intelligent species should understand. For long minutes, there was no response. Then the alien ship replied. The message came in waves of sound and light. It took the computers several minutes to begin translating. When the words finally appeared on the screen, everyone on the bridge held their breath. "We are the Accord. We come in peace. Please help us." Admiral Park felt a smile form on his lips. First contact with an alien civilization, and they were asking for help. This was better than he had ever hoped. "Tell them we are humans from Earth," he said. "Tell them we mean no harm and we want to help." Lieutenant sent the message. They replied quickly this time. They seemed eager to communicate. "Thank you, humans. Our ship is damaged. We cannot move. There are many of our people aboard. We were attacked and we are afraid." "Attacked by whom?" Admiral Park asked. Before they could answer, Captain Hana shouted a warning. "Sir, 3 ships just appeared from behind the moon. They came out of nowhere." Admiral Park turned to the main screen. 3 new vessels had appeared. They were different from the ship. These were dark and angular, covered in spikes and weapons. They looked like they were built for one purpose: war. "Those are not ships," said Captain Hana grimly. "Their weapons are charging." The 3 dark ships moved fast. They ignored the human fleet completely and flew straight toward the damaged vessel. Then, without any warning, they opened fire. Bright beams of energy slammed into the ship. Explosions bloomed across its hull. The screams of the came through the communication channel, translated into words that made Admiral Park's blood run cold. "They found us, please someone help us." The ships continued their attack without mercy. They circled the helpless vessel like predators around wounded prey. More explosions, more screams. They had no weapons to fight back. They could only beg for mercy that would never come. Admiral Park watched the slaughter with growing anger. His hands became fists at his sides. He did not know who these were. He did not know why they hated them. But he knew one thing with perfect clarity: he could not stand here and watch innocent beings die. "Sir," said Captain Hana quietly, "what are your orders?" The bridge was silent. Every officer watched their admiral, waiting. This was not their fight. The smart thing to do was to leave. The safe thing to do was to do nothing. Getting involved in an alien war could bring terrible consequences for humanity. But Admiral Park One had not become an admiral by being safe. He had spent his whole life protecting people. That was why he had joined the fleet. That was why he commanded these ships. And right now, in front of his eyes, people were dying. He looked at the burning ship. He heard their cries for help, and he made his decision. "All ships," he said in a voice as hard as steel, "battle stations. Target those attacking vessels. We are going to help them." Captain Hana allowed herself a small smile. "Yes, sir," she said, "with pleasure." The human fleet turned its weapons toward the ships. In the darkness of space, 12 warships prepared to enter a war they knew nothing about. Because sometimes, doing the right thing meant taking the risk. They did not know it yet, but they had just made a terrible mistake. They had attacked innocent people in front of the wrong audience, and humanity was about to teach them why that was a very bad idea. The first shots were about to be fired. The galaxy was about to learn what humans were made of. The order had been given. Admiral Park One watched as his fleet moved into attack position. His heart pounded in his chest, but his voice remained steady. This was the moment that would change everything. Humanity was about to fight its first battle against an alien enemy. Commander Shin Bora, the chief weapons officer, looked up from her console. She was a woman of 40 years with steady hands and cold nerves. In all her years of service, she had never fired at anything except pirates and target dummies. Now she was about to shoot at creatures from another world. "Weapons are ready, sir," she reported. "All ships confirm they are locked on target." "The ships have not noticed us yet," said Captain Hana. "They are focused on destroying we have the advantage of surprise." Admiral Park nodded. The 3 ships continued to pour fire into the damaged vessel. Each explosion brought more cries of fear and pain through the communication channel. They were dying, and they were dying slowly. "Sir," said I have translated more of the transmissions. That ship is carrying over 2,000 refugees. They are civilians, including children. They were fleeing from territory when they were attacked." The bridge fell silent. 2,000 lives. 2,000 innocent beings who had done nothing wrong except try to escape from monsters. Admiral Park felt his anger grow stronger. "Commander Shin," he said, "fire on my command." The ships were close now. They were ugly things, covered in black metal and sharp edges. Their weapons glowed red as they continued to attack the helpless. They had no idea that death was coming for them from behind. "All ships," Admiral Park said into the fleet-wide channel, "fire." 12 human warships unleashed their weapons at once. Missiles and energy beams crossed the darkness of space in an instant. The first ship took 3 direct hits before it even knew it was under attack. Its shields flickered and died. 2 more missiles punched through its hull. The ship exploded in a ball of orange fire. The other 2 ships stopped their attack on the. They turned, confused, looking for the source of the attack. When they saw the human fleet, they froze. They had never seen ships like these before. They had never encountered beings like humans. "They are hailing us," said Lieutenant. "They are demanding to know who we are." "Tell them we are humans," said Admiral Park. "Tell them to leave or be destroyed." The message was sent. For a moment there was silence. Then they responded, not with words but with weapons. Both remaining ships turned and fired at the human fleet. "Evasive action," shouted Captain Hana. The Soul's Promise shook as energy beams passed close to its hull. 2 other human ships took minor hits, but their shields held strong. The weapons were powerful, but human ships were built to survive. "Return fire," ordered Admiral Park. Commander Shin Bora worked her console with expert precision. The Soul's Promise launched a wave of missiles at the nearest ship. Other human vessels joined the attack. The ship tried to dodge, but it was too slow. The missiles found their target. The ship broke apart in a shower of metal and flame. The last ship was alone now. It faced 12 human warships with no hope of victory. For a moment, it seemed like it might surrender. Then it turned and ran. Its engines flared bright blue as it fled into the darkness of space. "Should we pursue?" asked Captain Hana. Admiral Park shook his head. "No, let it go. We have more important things to do." He turned to Lieutenant. "Open a channel to the ship. Tell them the danger has passed. Tell them we are coming to help." The young officer sent the message. The response came immediately. The voice that spoke was old and tired but filled with emotion. "Humans of Earth, we do not have words to thank you. No one has ever helped us against the. No one has ever cared enough to try. You have saved us when we had lost all hope." Admiral Park felt a warmth in his chest. This was why he had become a soldier, not to fight wars but to protect those who could not protect themselves. "We are sending rescue teams to your ship," he said. "Hold on, help is coming." For the next hour, human shuttles traveled back and forth between the fleet and the damaged vessel. Medical teams treated the wounded. Engineers worked to repair critical systems. Supplies of food and water were delivered to the frightened refugees. Doctor went aboard the ship herself. She wanted to meet these aliens face to face and learn their language properly. What she found amazed her. There were beautiful creatures. They were tall and thin, with silver skin that seemed to glow in the light. Their eyes were large and purple, full of intelligence and kindness. When they saw the humans, they reached out their long fingers in greeting. "You are so different from us," said one of them, "but you came to help us anyway. Why?" Doctor thought about the question. It seemed strange to her that anyone would need to ask. "Because you needed help," she said simply. "That is enough reason for us." They looked at each other in wonder. They had traveled among the stars for thousands of years. They had met many species, but they had never met anyone like these humans. Back on the Soul's Promise, Admiral Park received a troubling report. The ship that had escaped was sending a transmission. Lieutenant had intercepted it. "Sir," the young officer said, "the ship is calling for help. It is telling others about us. It is telling them that unknown aliens attacked their ships." "How many are responding?" asked Captain Hana. Lieutenant's face went pale. 40 ships, sir. A full war fleet. They are coming here." The bridge fell silent. 12 human ships against 40 warships. The numbers were not good. The smart thing to do would be to leave now while they still could. Admiral Park looked at the main screen. The damaged ship still floated there, filled with thousands of innocent lives. If he left now, they would come and finish what they started. They would die, and everything the humans had done would be for nothing. He opened a channel to all his ships. "This is Admiral Park," he said. "I will not lie to you. A large enemy fleet is coming. We are outnumbered. If we stay, we will have to fight. Some of us may die." He paused, letting his words sink in. "But if we leave, the die, every single one of them, 2,000 innocent lives, including children, they came to us for help. They trusted us, and we do not abandon people who trust us." He took a deep breath. "I am staying. I am not ordering any of you to stay with me. If you want to leave, go now. No one will judge you. But I made a promise to protect these people, and I will keep that promise." He waited. The seconds passed slowly. He watched his screen, expecting to see ships turn and leave. But no one moved. Every single ship in his fleet stayed in formation. One by one, the captains of his ships responded. "We stay with you, sir. We did not join the fleet to run from a fight. Those are counting on us. We will not let them down." Admiral Park felt pride swell in his heart. These were good people. These were the best of humanity, and together they would face whatever came next. "Very well," he said. "All ships prepare for battle. They think they know what war looks like. We are going to show them how humans fight." In the distance, the fleet was coming. 40 warships filled with enemies who had never lost a battle. They thought this would be easy. They thought these strange new aliens would be simple to destroy. They were wrong. They were very, very wrong. The hours before the battle were the longest Admiral Park one had ever known. His crews worked without rest, preparing their ships for the fight ahead. Engineers checked every system twice. Weapons officers loaded every missile they had. Medical teams prepared for the wounded they knew would come. On the damaged ship, the rescue operations continued. Ensign Dong, a young pilot with a brave heart, led one of the boarding teams. He had never seen an alien before today. Now he walked among them, helping where he could. They watched him with amazement. He was shorter than them, built heavier, with brown skin and dark hair. To them, he looked strange and rough, like a creature made for survival in harsh places. But his eyes were kind, and his hands were gentle as he helped the wounded. "You are so young," said an old woman. Her silver skin was pale, and she leaned on a walking stick. "Why are you here, risking your life for strangers?" Ensign thought about the question. He was only 23 years old. He had joined the fleet to see the stars and have adventures. He never expected to be fighting in an alien war. "My grandmother used to tell me stories," he said. "Stories about heroes who helped people in need. She said that real strength is not about how hard you can hit. It is about how much you can give." The old woman smiled. Her large purple eyes filled with tears. "Your grandmother was wise," she said. "I am Elder Myrasol. I lead these refugees. We have been running from them for many months. We thought no one would ever help us. We thought we would die alone in the darkness of space." "You are not alone anymore," said Ensign. "We will protect you." Elder Myrasol took his hand in her long, thin fingers. Her touch was warm and soft. "I believe you," she said. "For the first time in a very long time, I believe someone." Back on the Soul's Promise, Admiral Park received updates from his officers. The fleet was now only 2 hours away. 40 warships, each one bristling with weapons. Intelligence suggested they were led by a warlord named Ka, one of the most feared commanders in space. Doctor had learned much from about their enemies. She shared what she knew with the admiral and his officers. "They are conquerors," she explained. "They have dominated this region of space for over 1,000 years. They believe that the strong have the right to rule the weak. They take what they want and destroy anyone who resists." "And they?" asked Captain Hano. "They are peaceful. They are scientists and artists, not warriors. They have been hunting them for generations. They use thee as slaves and worse. These refugees are some of the last free in existence." Admiral Park felt his jaw tighten. He had dealt with bullies before. He had fought pirates who preyed on the helpless. But this was something bigger. This was an entire civilization built on cruelty and fear. "How do the other species in this region deal with the?" he asked. Doctor shook her head sadly. They do not deal with them, they run from them, they hide from them. No one has ever successfully fought back. They have never lost a major battle. Until today, said Commander Shin Bora quietly. Everyone looked at her. She stood at her weapons console with her arms crossed, her face hard with determination. They have never met humans before. They do not know what we can do. Admiral Park allowed himself a small smile. She was right. They had conquered species that were smarter than them, richer than them, more advanced than them. But none of those species had been human. Humans were different. Humans did not give up. Humans fought when fighting seemed hopeless. Humans protected their own and anyone they chose to call their own. It was in their blood. It was in their bones. It was what made them human. Send a message to Earth Command, Admiral Park ordered Lieutenant. Tell them what has happened. Tell them we are about to engage a superior enemy force. Tell them that whatever happens, we did not run. Yes, sir, said the young officer. He began typing the message. An hour later, the response came from Earth. Admiral Park read it on his personal screen, away from the eyes of his crew. Admiral Park, we have received your report. Reinforcements are being sent, but they will not arrive for at least 36 hours. You are on your own. Earth Command trusts your judgment. Whatever decision you make, know that you have the gratitude and support of all humanity. Good luck and may God be with you. 36 hours. The battle would be over long before help arrived. They would live or die based on their own strength and their own courage. Admiral Park returned to the bridge. His officers looked at him with questioning eyes. Help is coming, he said, but not in time. We fight alone. No one complained. No one cried. No one asked to leave. They simply nodded and returned to their work. These were soldiers of Earth, and they knew their duty. The final hour passed quickly. The fleet moved into position among the gas clouds of the Helix Nebula. Captain Hana had developed a battle plan that used the nebula's thick gases for cover. Human ships would be able to hide and strike, disappearing before they could respond. It will not make up for their numbers, she admitted, but it will give us a chance. If we are smart, if we are fast, if we are lucky, we might survive this. Luck is not a strategy, said Admiral Park. No, sir, she agreed, but it never hurts. At exactly 1400 hours, the fleet arrived. They emerged from faster-than-light travel in a wave of light and energy. 40 warships, each one dark and terrible, each one covered in weapons. They spread out in a formation designed to surround and destroy any enemy. On the lead ship, Warlord Ka looked at the human fleet with interest. He was a massive creature, covered in thick gray scales. His eyes were red and his teeth were sharp. He had destroyed hundreds of ships in his long career. These 12 little vessels would be nothing. Unknown vessels, he broadcast in a voice that rumbled like thunder. You have attacked ships of the Empire. This is a crime that will be punished with death. However, I am feeling generous today. Surrender now, give us and I will kill you quickly. Resist, and you will suffer. Admiral Park listened to the translation of the message. He had expected threats. He had expected demands. But he had not expected to feel such complete contempt for another being. Lieutenant, he said calmly, please send the following reply. Yes, sir. Tell Warlord Ka that his offer is refused. Tell him that these are under the protection of the United Earth Defense Fleet. Tell him that if he wants them, he will have to come through us. And tell him, Admiral Park paused, a cold smile forming on his lips. Tell him that we are not afraid. The message was sent. For a long moment there was silence. Then the fleet began to move. 40 ships spread out, surrounding the human position. Their weapons began to glow. All ships, said Admiral Park. It has been an honor serving with you. Today we show the galaxy who we are. Today we fight. Battle stations. The battle of the Helix Nebula was about to begin. 12 against 40. Humans against monsters. Hope against despair. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The first wave of ships attacked with terrible fury. They came from 3 directions at once, firing everything they had. The space around the human fleet lit up with explosions and energy beams. It was chaos and fire and death. But the humans were ready. "Scatter formation," shouted Captain Hana. "Use the nebula." The 12 human ships broke apart and dove into the thick gas clouds of the Helix Nebula. The purple and blue gases swallowed them, hiding them from enemy sensors. The ships followed, but they were slower and less nimble. They lost sight of their targets almost immediately. "They cannot see us," reported Lieutenant. "Their sensors are confused by the gas." "But we can see them," said Commander Shin Bora with satisfaction. Human sensors were better at filtering through interference. The ships appeared as bright dots on her screen, easy targets in the swirling clouds. "All ships," ordered Admiral Park. "Attack at will, hit them and move. Do not let them lock onto you." The battle became a hunt. Human ships appeared out of nowhere, fired missiles and energy weapons, then disappeared back into the nebula before they could respond. It was like fighting ghosts. Every time a captain thought he had found an enemy, that enemy was gone, and missiles were coming from a different direction. On the Soul's Promise, Admiral Park watched the battle unfold. His ships were performing beautifully. They moved like dancers, striking and retreating, never staying in one place long enough to be hit. They were becoming frustrated and confused. "3 enemy ships destroyed," reported Captain Hana. "2 more are heavily damaged. We have lost no ships yet." "Yet," repeated Admiral Park quietly. "The battle was going well, but it could not last. They had too many ships. Eventually, the odds would catch up with them." Warlord Ka was furious. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his ships fail again and again. He had never faced enemies like these. They were fast and clever and absolutely fearless. Every time he thought he had them trapped, they slipped away and struck from behind. "What are these creatures?" he roared. "How do they fight like this?" "They are humans, Warlord," said one of his officers nervously. "A new species. We have never encountered them before." "Then learn about them, find their weakness. I want them destroyed." But the humans had no obvious weakness. They simply kept attacking, kept moving, kept killing ships with cold efficiency. 5 ships lost, then 7, then 10. Back in the human fleet, Ensign Dong was flying his small fighter craft through the chaos. He had volunteered to lead a squadron of pilots on a dangerous mission, to get behind the lines and attack their command ship directly. It was almost suicide, but if they could damage Warlord Ka's flagship, they might disrupt his ability to coordinate the battle. It might give the human fleet the edge it needed. "Stay tight," Ensign told his squadron through the radio. "Follow my lead. We only get one chance at this." They flew through the nebula, dodging enemy fire and debris from destroyed ships. Twice they almost crashed into vessels. 3 times they had to change direction to avoid missile fire. But they kept going, pushing forward, refusing to give up. On the damaged ship, the refugees huddled together and prayed. Elder Myrosol stood by a window, watching the battle rage outside. She had never seen anything like it. Ships exploding, lights flashing, fire and destruction everywhere. Beside her, Doctor translated the human radio communications so they could understand what was happening. "The humans are winning," said Doctor with amazement in her voice. "They are actually winning against a fleet 3 times their size." "How is this possible?" asked Elder Myrosol. "How can so few defeat so many?" Doctor shook her head. "I am not sure, but humans have always been like this. When we have something worth fighting for, we become very difficult to stop." "What are they fighting for?" asked the elder. Doctor looked at the old woman with gentle eyes. "You," she said simply. "They are fighting for you." Elder Myrosol began to cry. In 1,000 years of running from no one had ever protected her people like this. No one had ever thought they were worth dying for. In the battle, the tide was turning. The human fleet had destroyed 15 ships now. The remaining 25 were scattered and disorganized. Many of their captains were dead or wounded. Their perfect formation had collapsed into chaos. But they were not finished. Warlord Ka had one more weapon, something he had been saving for a worthy enemy. He had never expected to need it against such a small force. Now, with his fleet in ruins, he decided to use it. "Activate the siege cannon," he ordered. His officers looked at him with fear in their eyes. The siege cannon was a terrible weapon. It took enormous power and time to charge, but it could destroy anything. Stars, moons, entire fleets. It was meant for destroying fortresses and space stations. Using it in open battle was dangerous. "But Warlord," said an officer, "if we fire that weapon here, the energy could." "I did not ask for your opinion," roared Ka. "Those humans have humiliated me. They have destroyed half my fleet. I will not let them escape. I will not let them live. Activate the cannon." The officers obeyed. Deep in the flagship, massive machines began to power up. Energy built and built, growing stronger every second. The entire ship began to glow with terrible light. On the Soul's promise, Commander Shin Bora saw what was happening. "Admiral," she shouted, "the enemy flagship is charging some kind of energy. Readings are off the scale if they fire that thing." "Where are they aiming?" asked Admiral Park. Commander Shin looked at her screen. Her face went pale. "They are aiming at the ship," she said quietly. Admiral Park felt ice in his veins. The 2,000 innocent beings. If that weapon fired, they would all die. Everything the humans had fought for would be lost. "How long until it fires?" he demanded. 3 minutes, maybe 4. "Can we destroy the flagship in time?" Commander Shin shook her head. "No, sir, it is too far away. We cannot reach it before the weapon fires." Admiral Park stared at the screen. The enemy flagship glowed brighter and brighter. Around it, ships formed a protective wall, keeping the human fleet away. There seemed to be no way through. But then a voice came through the radio, young and brave and determined. "Admiral, this is Ensign Dong. My squadron is behind the enemy lines. We can see the flagship. We can reach it." Admiral Park felt hope spark in his chest. "Ensign, can you stop that weapon?" "Maybe, sir. If we crash into the weapon port, we might disrupt the firing mechanism. But—" He did not need to finish. Everyone understood. It would be a one-way trip. "Ensign," said Admiral Park slowly, "I cannot order you to do this." There was a pause. When Ensign spoke again, his voice was calm and steady. "Sir, I did not ask for an order. I am asking for permission." Admiral Park closed his eyes. This young man was willing to die to save strangers he had never met before today. This was what humanity was. This was what made them special. "Permission granted," he said. "And Ensign, thank you." "Thank my grandmother, sir," said Ensign. "She taught me what being a hero means." The line went silent. On the screen, Admiral Park watched a tiny fighter craft break away from the human squadron and fly straight toward the glowing flagship. It was so small, so fragile, so incredibly brave. The fate of 2,000 lives now depended on one young pilot and his willingness to give everything he had. Ensign Dong flew his tiny fighter toward the massive flagship. The ship grew larger and larger in his view, a mountain of dark metal and glowing weapons. The siege cannon on its front was now shining so bright that it hurt to look at. In less than 2 minutes, it would fire and destroy the ship. He was afraid. Of course he was afraid. He was 23 years old and he was about to die, but he kept flying anyway. Some things were more important than fear. They saw him coming. Energy beams filled the space around him, trying to shoot him down. He dodged left, then right, spinning his fighter through a storm of fire. His hands moved faster than his thoughts. Training and instinct kept him alive when logic said he should be dead. "Ensign, you have enemy fighters on your tail," shouted someone through the radio. "I see them," he replied calmly. "I will deal with them." He pulled his fighter into a tight turn that would have killed an ordinary pilot. The enemy fighters tried to follow, but they were too slow. Two of them crashed into each other. The third he destroyed with a quick burst of weapons fire. The flagship was close now. He could see the siege cannon clearly, a massive cylinder of metal and energy pointed directly at the helpless ship. In moments, it would fire. "Admiral," said Ensign, "I am in position. Tell them it was an honor to fight for them." Admiral Park's voice came through the radio, rough with emotion. "I will tell them, son. Now do what you need to do." Ensign aimed his fighter at the siege cannon. He pushed the engines to maximum power. The world became a blur of light and speed. He thought of his grandmother, who had taught him about heroes. He thought of Elder Myrasol and her tired, hopeful eyes. He thought of all the children who would live because of what he was about to do. He closed his eyes. And then something hit him from the side. His fighter spun wildly, thrown off course by a powerful impact. Warning lights flashed everywhere. Through his cracked windshield, he saw another ship pulling away, a human cruiser, the Shield. "What?" he started to say. Commander Shin Bora's voice filled his radio. "Sorry, Ensign, you are too young to die today. This is my job." Before he could respond, he saw the Shield racing toward the flagship. The ship was already damaged, trailing smoke and fire from earlier battles. It should not have been able to fly at all, but Commander Shin was pushing it forward with everything it had. "Commander, no," shouted Admiral Park. "Sir," said Commander Shin calmly, "the Shield is already dying. We have a skeleton crew and I have ordered them to the escape pods. I am the only one left aboard. Let me do this." The siege cannon was almost ready to fire. The light was blinding now, a terrible star of death about to be born. "Bora," said Admiral Park, his voice breaking, "I order you to—" "Sorry, sir," she interrupted. "Radio is cutting out, cannot hear you." She switched off communications. The Shield flew straight and true, aimed directly at the siege cannon. Commander Shin Bora thought of her parents, who would be proud. She thought of her crew, who had trusted her. She thought of all the humans and who would live because she refused to let them die. The Shield hit the flagship at full speed. The siege cannon was charging to fire at the exact moment of impact. The collision disrupted the weapon's delicate systems. Energy that should have been released in a controlled beam instead exploded inward. The entire front section of the flagship disappeared in a ball of white fire. The explosion tore through the ship, destroying everything in its path. Warlord Ka had only a moment to realize what was happening before the fire reached him. His last thought was of the small creatures who had done this. The humans. He had underestimated them. He had called them weak. He had been wrong. Then there was only light and silence. The destruction of the flagship sent shockwaves across the battlefield. The remaining ships lost all communication with their leader. Confusion spread through their ranks. Panic followed. "All ships," ordered Admiral Park, his voice steady despite the grief in his heart, "press the attack. Finish this." The human fleet responded with fury. They swept through the lines like a storm, destroying ship after ship. The leaderless and terrified began to retreat. First one ship ran, then another, then whole groups at once. In less than 20 minutes, the remaining ships had fled, disappearing into the darkness of space. The Battle of the Helix Nebula was over. Admiral Park stood on his bridge, looking at the aftermath of the battle. Destroyed ships floated everywhere, both human and. The nebula was filled with fire and debris. But in the middle of it all, the ship still survived, its lights shining through the chaos. "Search and rescue," he ordered quietly. "Find any survivors, human or anyone else." "Sir," said Lieutenant, "we are picking up a signal. It is coming from near the wreckage of the Shield." Admiral Park felt his heart stop. "What kind of signal?" It is an emergency beacon, sir. A life pod. Hope, impossible hope, filled the Admiral's chest. Get a shuttle there, now. 10 minutes later, a small life pod was brought aboard the Soul's Promise. Medical teams rushed to open it. And inside, barely alive but breathing, was Commander Shin Bora. She had ejected at the last possible second, just before this shield struck the enemy flagship. Her pod had been thrown clear by the explosion. She was burned and broken, but she was alive. "You disobeyed a direct order," said Admiral Park, kneeling beside her stretcher. Commander Shin opened her eyes and smiled weakly. "Radio was broken, sir. Remember." Admiral Park laughed despite himself. It was a sound mixed with tears. Hours later, the human fleet gathered around the ship for the last time. Repairs had been made. Wounded had been treated. The dead had been honored. Now it was time to say goodbye. Ambassador Torin, the leader who had first called for help, spoke to Admiral Park through a communication screen. "Human Admiral," he said, "what you have done today will never be forgotten. You saved our people when no one else would help. You gave us hope when we had none. We are forever in your debt." "No debt is owed," said Admiral Park. "We did what was right, that is all." Elder Myrasol appeared beside the ambassador. Her old eyes were wet with tears. "We'll tell every species we encounter about you," she said. "We will spread the story of what happened here today. The galaxy will know that there is a new people among the stars, people who protect the weak, people who stand against evil, people called humans." Admiral Park nodded respectfully. "Tell them also that we want peace. We did not come here looking for war, but if anyone threatens innocent lives, they will find us ready to fight." The communication ended. The ship slowly moved away, heading toward safe space where the refugees could start new lives. The human fleet watched them go. On the bridge of the Soul's Promise, Captain Hana stood beside Admiral Park. "What happens now, sir?" she asked. "Now we go home, we report what happened, and we prepare." "Prepare for what?" Admiral Park looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, survivors were telling their leaders about the humans. Other species were hearing the story. The galaxy was learning that humanity existed. "Prepare for everything," he said. "We just announced ourselves to the universe. Some will want to be our friends, some will want to destroy us. Either way, things will never be the same." He turned to face his crew, the brave men and women who had fought beside him. "Today, you showed the galaxy what humans are made of. You showed them our courage, our loyalty, and our willingness to sacrifice for strangers. I have never been more proud." He paused, looking at each face. "The universe is watching now. Let us make sure they like what they see." Across the galaxy, in 100 different species and 1,000 different worlds, the story spread. The humans had arrived, and they protected those who could not protect themselves. Nothing would ever be the same again.